The Forbidden Valor View? The Prez nodded. Yeah, that's the name of Gasper's sacred gear. It's a particularly powerful weapon. But isn't that sort of overpowered ability against the rules or something? Yes, indeed. But the same can be said about your power increasing ability, or the White Dragon Emperor's power dividing. No? Right, that was probably true. But still, suspending time sounded like a whole different level of rule breaking. The problem is that Gasper can't handle his ability. That's why I had to seal him away until now. He can only activate his sacred gear involuntarily. So it was as I had assumed. But how did you end up recruiting someone with something like that? And he only cost you one piece? At this question, the Prez summoned a book into the air above her before flipping through the pages and pointing into a particular paragraph. It was an explanation of rules underlying the evil pieces system. It's a mutation piece, she said. A mutation piece? Kiba was the one to answer my question. Unlike regular evil pieces, mutation pieces are capable of reincarnating someone who would normally require multiple pieces to recruit. The president is one such piece, Akeno appended. Roughly 1 in 10 high-class demons possess a single mutation piece. They said to have started as a bug with the evil pieces system was first designed, but people decided to leave it in for a bit of fun. Gasper was recruited using one of them. So the Prez used that rare item on him? The problem with Gasper's abilities... What do you mean, Prez? He has exceptional talent, and it seems that he can increase the power of his sacred gear unconsciously. Because of that, it's increasing strength by the day. From our previous conversations, it sounds like there might be a possibility that it could develop into a level of a balance breaker given enough time. A balance breaker? That would make it even more dangerous, right? If someone who couldn't even control his own powers managed to unlock his balance breaker, using a time-stopping sacred gear no less than... Just as I was overwhelmed by that admission, the Prez placed a hand on her forehead in consternation. Indeed, it's a critical situation, but now that I earned a reputation with the most important decision makers, they've decided I ought to be able to manage him. They must have concluded that I helped you and Yuto control your balance breakers. I didn't know Kiba's, but my balance breaker was incomplete, and using it came with some pretty severe drawbacks. But I heard I've received substantial credit for bringing the bastard riser down. That had no doubt contributed to the Prez's higher standing too. Even if the Vanishing Dragon's intervention had resolved in our recent trouble, we'd still been able to defend our territory and prevent any large-scale destruction. So the bigwigs have decided that the President or Familia could do all that. Then there's no reason why we couldn't restrain Gasper either. I don't like when people talk about me when I'm not here. There was a large cardboard box by my side. That was where the voice had sounded from. There was a sudden scream. Unsurprisingly, it came from Gasper. He was so frightened of the outside world that he was hiding inside a cardboard box. Seriously, did he really hate being outside his room that much? In terms of ability, I think that he's only second to Akeno. Not only that, but he comes from a venerable vampire family, and thanks to his human half, he possesses a mighty sacred gear. He has a natural ability of a vampire, and is skilled in the kind of magic that only humans can cast. He might not be particularly adept, but I doubt I would have been able to recruit him with just one bishop piece. Oh, so he's that impressive, is he? This cross-dressing socio-phobe vampire? Wait, but what about daylight? Prez, aren't vampires supposed to be weak to the sun? Will he be okay? Rias nodded. That isn't a problem. He has the blood of a daywalker, a special kind of vampire that can move freely during the daylight. That said, he doesn't exactly like it. A daywalker. I guess there were all kinds of vampires. I hate the sun. I hate it. I wish it would disappear forever. Gasper had a point. Sunlight was the natural enemy to demons too. Still, we were still students of Kuo Academy. So we had to get used to moving around during the day to attend school. You haven't been going to class, have you? You need to figure out how to overcome your problems and attend lessons. You know that, right? My words only drove Gasper to start shrieking. No, I'm fine in this box. The air and light outside are bad for me. Just treat me like a sheltered kid. This was worse than I thought. What were we gonna do with him? One more thing. Doesn't he drink blood? I mean, he's a vampire, right? I questioned. He's only half, so he doesn't require it that often. As long as he has some every 10 days or so, he's fine. Although, he doesn't particularly like that either. I hate blood. It stinks. And I hate liver too. How could this kid survive as a vampire if he was so picky about blood? Worthless vampire. Konako spat out spitefully. Dang, she was ruthless. What? Konako, why are you so mean? They were both first years, so there was no need for her to treat him with respect. She showed the upperclassmen. However, I was older than Konako, and she told me off all the time. In any event, while I'm gone, I'll leave Gasper's education and training in your hands. Issei, Azia, Konako, and Zenovia. Akeno and I will be going to the venue of the Leaders Summit. And Yuto, my brother wants to know more about your balance breaker, so please come with me. Yes, President. It looked like the press had a long day ahead of her, and the Demon King had called Kiba personally. He wanted to know more about his holy demon sword, I guess. Fusing holy and demonic powers were supposed to be impossible, so it probably was extremely irregular for a sacred gear to develop into that kind of balance breaker. It was only natural to want to investigate it. Sorry, Issei, but I'll leave Gasper to you. Don't worry about us, Kiba. Azia, Konako, and Zenovia are here too, so we'll manage. Probably. To be honest, I was feeling a little nervous. A sociophobe vampire. I was worried about his future. Gasper, isn't it about time you step outside? You need to start getting used to the world, don't you think? Akeno asks, speaking into the cardboard box. Akeno, please don't say that. Oh dear, how awkward. It seems like you got your work cut out for you, Issei. Yeah, I won't let you down, Akeno. There was no way I was gonna let her and the press down. Yep, alright, Issei. Let's get this kid into shape. Nobody likes a weak man. And I've wanted to fight against the vampire ever since I was a kid. Let's handle him. And with that, Zenovia pulled at a cord that had been tied to Gasper's cardboard box. She wanted to fight against him? Did she intend to destroy him? No. I hate your Durandal too. She's going to kill me. Stop screaming, vampire. If you keep that up, I'll use a cross and holy water on you, and maybe stuff some garlic down your throat. No, not garlic. It seemed like a stroke of misfortune that Gasper was in the same familia as Zenovia. Oh, hold on. She was a demon out too, so if she tried to exorcise Gasper, it would seriously wound her as well. I suddenly found myself concerned for Zenovia's future as well. Alright, start running. You're a daywalker, so you shouldn't have any problem moving around in the sun. Don't chase me waving around that Durandal. Our holy sword wielder was chasing a resident vampire through the grounds outside the old school building during sunset. To anyone watching, it might have looked like a real-life vampire hunt. The Durandal was letting out a dangerous sound and a ferocious aura. Gasper was fleeing for his life, naturally. If Zenovia managed to land a blow with her Durandal, it would mean the end for him. According to Zenovia, a sound mind started with a well-trained body, so she took his physical training upon herself. Unsurprisingly, her methods were way over the top. However, she did look to be enjoying herself as she swung her legendary weapon back and forth. I recall that Zenovia had mentioned something about enjoying her responsibilities since becoming a demon. She was probably similar to Azia in that respect. They both lived simple lives in the service of the church, and so now that they come to Japan, a mostly secular country with no overbearing religious institutions, Their new lives must have been a breath of fresh air. I was looking forward to meeting the other bishop like me, but he wouldn't even look me in the eye, Azia said with a regretful sniffle. She seemed likely to cry. At home, she had often mentioned how she wanted to meet the Prez's other bishop. She must have been eagerly anticipating meeting him. Her disappointment was understandable, but it couldn't be helped. Gasper's social anxiety was off the charts. Seriously, he hadn't been able to make eye contact with Azia. Damn him. Who did he think he was? Still, I was going to have to put up with his indiscretions. He might have been my senior as a demon, but he was still my junior at school. I had to look after him. Like Zenovia, Konako was chasing after Gasper with a handful of garlic. Gaspy, garlic will make you big and strong. Why are you bullying me, Konako? Was it me, or were the two first years getting along well? I heard that Konako had a bit of a mean streak, but was she teasing him? Hold up, did she just call him Gaspy? Oh, I see that they're really getting into it. At that moment, Saji, from the student council, appeared beside me. Oh, hey Saji. Yo, Hyoto, I heard that you let your familiar shut-in out, so I thought I'd take a look. Yeah, over there. The kid Zenovia is chasing around with her weapon. Wait, she's actually waving her legendary holy sword around? Are you sure about that? It's a girl, and blonde? Saji looked truly delighted. I knew how he felt. Sorry to break it to you, but he's a crossdresser. Hearing that, Saji was immediately crestfallen, utterly devastated. That fraud. Don't people normally cross-dress because they want to show off? He's an indoor kid. Who's he got to impress? That doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. That makes two of us. I don't understand Gasper either. Feminine attire suits him so well that I don't even know what to say. Anyway, what's up? Saji was wearing a tracksuit and a pair of work gloves and was carrying a small gardening trowel. As you see, I'm tending to the flower beds. The chairwoman gave me this job a week ago. There's a lot of events taking place on campus lately, right? And the Demon Kings are holding a conference here too. So it's the job of the chairwoman's pawn, me, to make sure the grounds are in good shape. He paused there, puffing out his chest proudly. Doesn't that mean he's doing odd jobs? I didn't want to wound his pride, so I kept quiet. I sensed a presence approaching in our direction. I turned towards the source of the sound, and couldn't believe my eyes. So this is where the servants of the families of the Demon Kings come to play. He was a sinister-looking guy dressed in a summer's yukata. I knew that face well. Azazel. Yo, Mr. Red Dragon Emperor, we meet again. Everyone suddenly turned to look at the fallen angel. Immediately, the atmosphere was tense. Zenovia braced herself with her sword at the ready. Readying the situation, Azia hid behind my back as I activated my boosted gear to protect her. What was the governor of the fallen angels doing here of all places? Saji wore a look of utter stupefaction, but quickly activated his sacred gear, and the lizard-like face appeared on the back of his hand. Hiroto, is that really Azazel? I'm not fooling around here, Saji. I've met him a few times now. Seeing how serious I was, Saji braced himself for combat too. Azazel broke into a mirth-filled chuckle at our battle postures. He didn't seem threatening in the slightest bit. I'm not in the mood. Come on, relax, little low-class demon kids. You gotta know that you can't hope to beat me, right? And I'm not interested in shaking down a few low-class demons. I was just taking a stroll and thought I might pay a visit to your demon school. Is your holy demon store kid here? I'd like to check that thing out. Though Azazel's words seemed placative, none of us were relaxed. No way we were gonna trust anything a fallen angel had to say. Kiba isn't here, but if it's him you're after, I won't let you have him. I spat back. Now that Kiba has unlocked his super rare balance breaker, was Azazel trying to win him over? Come on, you couldn't even hold your own against Kokabeel, so there's no way you could beat me. But that holy demon sword kid really isn't here then? Color me disappointed, Azazel said, scratching at his head as he approached. I couldn't sense any hostility in him, but that in itself was terrifying. My hands were trembling in fear. We hadn't been able to do anything against Kokobio, another leading member of Azazel's organization, and now we were faced with the head honcho. This was the kind of situation where you might wind up dead if you blinked. I didn't want to see him unfurl those black wings of his and send me into the next world. If I was going to die, I wanted to have sex with the Prez first. Azazel pointed towards a nearby tree. You, the vampire hiding over there. Gasper, who it turned out had indeed concealed himself behind that tree, suddenly cried out in a panic. Azazel approached him. You're the one with the forbidden valor view, right? That thing will end up hurting everyone around you if you don't learn how to master it. It's a support type sacred gear, so you should be fine if you compensate for its deficiencies. However, unless I'm mistaken, you demons lag behind when it comes to research on sacred gears. A weapon that can trigger by one of the physical senses is quite perilous. You could end up activating it without meaning to if you put too much energy into it. Azazel stared into Gasper's face, or rather, into his eyes. Gasper trembled violently as the fallen angel approached him. That was a natural response as far as I was concerned. Yet, I still couldn't detect any sense of hostility or ill will on the part of Azazel. Instead, he looked merely curious. Perhaps the others had noticed that too, as no one knew how best to respond. From where I was standing, it almost looked like the fallen angel was about to attack Gasper. At that moment, Azazel spun around and pointed towards Saji. Saji, of course, braced himself, but that's the absorption line, isn't it? If you're here to practice, why don't you try using it? Latch onto the vampire and activate it while draining his power. Do that, and he'll be less likely to run off. Saji's expression stiffened at the instructions. I could use it to absorb power from other sacred gears? I thought all it did was sap energy from my enemies and weaken them. Azazel sighed. That is what I mean when I say people these days don't have the faintest clue on how to properly wield their sacred gears. He bemoaned, dumbfounded. The absorption line has the power of one of the 5 great demon kings, the prison dragon, Veritra. Although it was only my research that uncovered that fact. You could connect it to just about anything and siphon power off of it. You could even detach it temporarily and let it latch onto someone or something else. So I could connect it to Hyodo, then, for example, and then Hyodo would get power from it? Indeed, the more you grow, the more lines you could use. Your power output would level up as well. Saji fell silent. If Azazel was telling the truth there, the sacred gear was pretty incredible, huh? No. This was the governor of the fallen angels we were talking about, right? The boss of our mortal enemies. He was obviously a bad guy, or so I thought, but I still couldn't sense even the slightest bit of hostility from him. Still, I was worried about what Kokobio had said. He's quite the collector of sacred gears. Did his interest in us all have something to do with that? The fastest way to level up your sacred gear would be to drink the blood of the vessel of the boosted gear. Give your vampire some blood to drink, and you'll increase his power. I'm sure you could figure out the rest on your own. With that, the fallen angel took one last look at us and turned to leave. Before he departed, however, he paused for a moment, glancing my way. Sorry about Volley, our white dragon emperor. He wasn't supposed to reach out to you without permission. I bet you were pretty surprised, eh? He's a strange one. I don't think he's interested in settling the red and white rivalry just yet. What about you then? Are you going to apologize for summoning me without telling me who you were? He had seriously freaked me out. That wasn't even a good joke, telling the demon you summoned that you were the governor of the fallen angels. Azazel remained unfazed and simply flashed me a mischievous grin. That's my hobby. I've got nothing to atone for. And with that, he turned to leave for real this time. We, who had been left behind, exchanged troubled glances. Saji let out a sigh. I guess I could try to use my sacred gear on that new kid. Then you could try getting him to practice with the sacred gear. But in return, you all need to help out with the flower beds next time. We nodded at Saji's suggestion, and so Gasper's training session got underway. Saji launched his absorption line towards Gasper and began to drain his excess power. Just like Azazel said, Saji would be able to draw energy from Gasper's sacred gear. That fallen angel was knowledgeable. Next, we practiced throwing volleyballs at Gasper and got him to freeze them into place. He could only pause time around his targets for a few minutes at most. Those volleyballs, when targeted, ended up suspended in midair. When he used his ability on a living thing, they were also rendered entirely motionless. Anyone who caught Gasper's attack was struck without any awareness of what was going on around them. I knew that from experience. It felt strange to have your world freeze without any clue what happened, or how much time had passed. However, Gasper's sacred gear could only affect things that he could see. Even with that limitation, it was still an unquestionably potent tool. The closer Gasper got to his target, the better he could see them, which made the time-stopping effect stronger. The trouble was that Gasper couldn't effectively use the sacred gear. He had difficulty stopping only one target, and often wound up suspending everything within range. He couldn't consciously activate it either, and there was a few times where he glanced toward one of us and froze an arm or leg. Seriously, the way that he activated that thing without even meaning to was a real nuisance. Every time he did something like that by accident, he would cry "I'm sorry" and run off to hide somewhere. Catching him and bringing him back got old real fast. All I wanted him to do was freeze a volleyball without hitting anything else. But getting Gasper to that level was more difficult than I expected. Not only was I dealing with the quirks of a powerful sacred gear, but also those of a strange kid. Still, the president trusted me with this task, so I had no choice but to stick with him. I was determined to whip Gasper into shape. "How's it going? Is he making any progress?" the press asked, bringing us sandwiches. Since she decided to check in on us, she must have been concerned about Gasper. The boy in question was panting in nervous exhaustion, probably because we had repeatedly been draining his power. Rias' arrival seemed as good as any time for us to take a break. Whoa, the sandwiches are amazing. The spices are superb. The taste is eye-opening. Prez, these are delicious. Thank you. I didn't have many ingredients, so they're very simple, I'm afraid. Even if that was true, they were mouth-watering. Even Saji was muttering about how tasty they were. Akeno and Kiba were still with Sir Zex and hadn't returned. The Prez was alarmed to hear about Azazel, but said, "I heard that he's knowledgeable about sacred gears. As for his advice, I suppose he feels comfortable enough to share it with us." With that, she fell deep into thought. "Now that you return, Rias, I should go back to work with the flower beds," Saji stated, taking another 2 or 3 bites to finish his sandwich before rising to his feet. "Saji, thank you for going out of your way to help my servant today. I appreciate it." Saji blushed at the Prez's appreciative remark. It's fine, really. You're the chairwoman's friend, and I learned about my sacred gear today. It's been a win-win situation for the both of us." He was an alright guy, that Saji. While he had a nasty tongue at times, he could be good company too. "Okay then, it's up to you now, Hyodo." "Yeah, thanks," I replied as he left. After seeing him off, the Prez turned to Gasper, who was resting beneath a tree nearby. "Are you feeling up for a bit more practice, Gasper? Now that Saji has drained your power, your energy level should be just about right. I'll train you myself for the rest of the day." Whoa, the Prez was so dependable. Yup, she truly did care about the members of her familia. More than anything, the Prez knew how to train her servants. She had dedicated a great deal of time for me as well. "I'll do my best," Gasper said in an exhausted tone as he rose to his feet. If he's actually gonna try, then I'll stick with it too. And so, Gasper's training session continued right up until nightfall. The next evening, I was back to my usual demon work. I was still unable to jump to my client's location through the magic circle, but at least I was carrying out my job relatively well. The Leaders' Summit was fast approaching, but even so, we servants of Rias Gremi's Familia still needed to go about our everyday work. Not only that, but there were 2 Demon Kings in town, so we couldn't afford to do things half-heartedly. Oh, it's Issei today, huh? Asked my client, a man called Morisawa, his shoulders slumping in obvious disappointment. He was a regular client for Konako and me. Tonight, it was my turn to deal with him. Morisawa's gaze shifted downward. It looked like his attention was focused on the space beside me. A large cardboard box. What's that? A talking box, I answered. I lightly nudged the container with my foot. The gesture earned a shrill scream. Yeah, it was my closeted junior, Gasper. I had pedaled him all the way here on the back of my bicycle. The president asked me to take him out on a few of my jobs. I felt like weeping. To be honest, I didn't think Gasper would be much use, but so long as he didn't get in the way, I was willing to put up with him. So I just set the box down on the floor when... What is it? What's inside? Morisawa asked, edging closer. Before I knew it, he opened the lid and... Morisawa and Gasper's gaze met. Given Gasper's fear of social interaction, it wasn't surprising that this sudden encounter was enough to bring him to tears. Come on, Gasper. You've got to learn to cope with things like this. He may look like a cute little girl, but he's actually a boy. He seems big on cross-dressing, I explained. It seemed best to make the situation plain for Morisawa right from the start. Surprisingly, my client grabbed me by the shoulders and bellowed, "No real girl could ever be this cute. Femboys are awesome." What an emphatic cry. Wait, so he was okay with Gasper being a guy? Seriously? Morisawa's eyes was positively gleaming. Come out now. I'm not going to bite. Let's have fun. Morisawa entreated while taking ragged breaths through his nose. He transformed into a total degenerate. No. Gasper was all but sobbing. He looked terrified. I could hardly blame him. Morisawa's creepy demeanor was enough to even freak me out. My client reached towards Gasper, his fingers wriggling lecherously. Gasper screamed. Everything stopped. When I came to, the cardboard box that had been resting beside me had disappeared. Morisawa clearly couldn't grasp what just happened. Gasper had suspended time around us. He must have panicked and unconsciously activated his sacred gear. Morisawa and I had been frozen in time, but I didn't know for how long. Quickly, I scanned the room, spotting Gasper's box in one corner. So that's where he had gone. I walked over. Sorry about that, Gasper. Morisawa was a little scary just now, wasn't he? He cried. There was no way he would be any use on this job. I did it again. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I'm so stupid. I didn't want to stop them. I didn't want to stop them. Gasper. The president left him in my care, so I had to do something. Unfortunately, now that he was all worked up, it would take him a while to recover. There was nothing I could do to fix the situation. Gasper, please come out. I'm sorry I made you go with Issei today, the prez called, apologizing at the door of his room. I thought it might be good for you to get some experience working with Issei. Gasper had locked himself in his room of the old school building, wailing so loudly that he could even be heard from outside. He was scared of others, and he was afraid of his inability to control his sacred gear causing trouble. As if that hadn't been enough, Morisama had scared the living daylights out of him just now. It had been a terrifying encounter, that was for sure. Earlier, the president explained that Gasper's father belonged to a lineage of noble vampires, but his mother had been just a regular human, so he wasn't pure-blooded. Apparently, vampires despised those of mixed heritage even more than demons did. Such individuals were held to extreme contempt, even by members of their own family. It was genuinely extreme, nothing short of discrimination. Gasper had been bullied as a child by his half-brothers, and even after coming to the human world, he had been treated as a monster with no place to call his own. Nonetheless, he possessed the distinctive abilities of vampires, along with a gift unique to humans, a very rare sacred gear. Like it or not, he had been born with both, and they would only grow stronger as he got older. Even when Gasper tried to get along with someone, the slightest surprise risked setting off his sacred gear, freezing them in place. Issei, how would you feel if you were frozen in time? the Prez asked me. I'd be a bit scared, I think, I answered truthfully. I could only imagine what it would be like, and the images that came to my mind weren't pleasant. What would I do? What would happen to me during that time? I definitely would be worried. All those who Gasper had stopped must have felt the same way. Once that sliver of doubt entered their minds, they would fear him, and the friendship would be impossible. Gasper had undoubtedly gone through that more than a few times. It was the kind of misery and misfortune that often befell those born with sacred gears. Ozzy had been similar. She had been branded a witch. Sacred gears were supposed to be gifts from God. God might not be around anymore, but his sacred gears were still alive and kicking. By the looks of things, they weren't going anywhere. No one could deny that they were powerful weapons, but that strength brought an equal amount of hardship too. I wish I didn't have this sacred gear. I'm always stopping everyone. I don't want to. I hate it. I don't want to stop my friends. I don't want to have to see everyone's stopped faces. I can't do this anymore. Gasper sobbed. Driven from his home, unable to live in human or vampire society, he had wandered the streets. Eventually, he had fallen prey to a vampire hunter. It was then that the Prez had found him. Initially, Rias hadn't been able to control him, so she had been ordered by her superiors to seal him away. This is a problem. I can't let him become a shut-in again. I'm a failure as a king of this familia, the Prez murmured, dejected. She wasn't in the wrong, nor was Gasper. No, the one at fault was me. They had both placed their hopes in me to take care of him while he joined me at work, and I hadn't been able to do anything. Prez, don't you have to meet with Sir Zex and the others soon? I asked. Yes, but I want to stay here a while longer. I need to take care of Gasper. Leave him to me. I'll take care of him. She couldn't reject my offer. Her meeting was crucial. The Leader Summit had to run smoothly, and the setting and the venue were paramount. If anything went awry, it risked widening the divisions between the three factions. It's alright. I finally got a junior to mentor. I'll look after him, I declared proudly. Let me give it to you straight. I wasn't incredibly confident. Dealing with sensitive personalities wasn't my strong suit, but I had to act assured in front of the Prez. Issei, alright, can I leave him with you? Of course, I responded, my voice filled with enthusiasm. Rias flashed me a smile, nodding. She glanced once more towards the door of Gasper's room, worry plain in her expression, before departing. After seeing her off, I let out a deep sigh and slumped down to the floor. I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait here until you're ready to come out. I called loud enough so that Gasper would hear. I racked my brain, but that was all I could come up with. Sit down and wait. Plain and simple. Wasn't there a famous shut-in a long time ago? And this is how people convinced them to come out. I wasn't sure, but I thought I was right. It was a battle endurance. I must have sat there for an hour or more, waiting impatiently, but there was no sign of change. Just sitting in silence wasn't getting me anywhere. Maybe I should try talking to him? Are you afraid of your sacred gear? Of us? I asked through the door. My sacred gear is overpowered too, you know. There's a super strong dragon inside of it, but my life wasn't as unusual as yours at Kiba's. I was just a normal high school student. I didn't know whether or not Gasper was listening, yet I had to do something. Voicing my thoughts was the best I could muster. To tell you the truth, I'm scared too. Every time I draw the dragon's power, I feel like a part of me is morphing into something else. I still don't know much about demons, and I don't have any idea what a dragon really is. Even so, I decided to keep moving forward. What other choice was there? Why do that if you could lose something so important? How are you able to keep going so easily? A response. Good. So he is listening. However, Gasper's question put me in a bit of a bind. I'm not that bright, so I really don't know much about tough questions like that, but I don't want to see the Prez cry ever again. We lost our first raiding game. I was beaten to a pulp, to the point where I couldn't even remember what happened at the end. I was pathetic, but I do remember the Prez's tears. I clenched my fists. Even now, the memory was painful. It was hard. I can still see it all so clearly. And my allies kept getting eliminated one after the other until I was the only one left. Sometimes, I relive the battle in my dreams. When I do, it's always me running around the battlefield alone. When I finally find the Prez, she's sobbing, and there's nothing I could do. The door cracked open slightly. I wasn't there. Gasper peeked from the gap. It looked like his eyes were wet. Yeah, I know. I'm not blaming you or anything, but it'll be different from now on, right? I'll just cause trouble for you. I'm a shut-in. I'm afraid of everyone, and I can't even use my sacred gear properly. I placed my hand on Gasper's head, peering into his eyes. So that's where his sacred gear is, huh? The ability to stop time. I don't hate you. You're my junior, so I always look after you. Well, I guess you're my senior as a demon, but I'm older than you in real life, so I'll look after you. Gasper blinked in surprise. Fight with us. Let's support the Prez together. If anything scares you, tell me, and I'll send it flying. I got legendary dragon power, so it will be easy, I said with a grin. Gasper, however, looked troubled by my attempt to encourage him. Do you want to try drinking my blood? If that bastard Azazel is telling the truth, then it might help you control your sacred gear. If that was really all it took, then it was a small price to pay. Would that turn me into a vampire too, though? I recalled something about virgins becoming vampires when bitten. Gasper shook his head. I'm afraid to suck on a living person's blood. I'm scared of my powers. If they get stronger, You don't want to be at the mercy of your sacred gear, right? But, I kind of wish I had your abilities. Gasper looked truly surprised by what I just said. His reaction similarly caught me off guard. Did I say something weird? I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to stop time? I'd get into so much trouble if I had that power. I'll probably be getting in all kinds of dodgy stuff with every girl in class. The whole school, maybe. I guarantee it. I could sneak down to the hall and catch a peek at everyone's panties. If I had that sacred gear of yours, I could stop the Prez and check out her breasts. Just thinking about those glorious boobs to myself is too much. See, I'm drooling, right? I could use it to get to Akeno's chest too. I could catch a glimpse at her panties. The possibilities are endless. That might have been true, but I made sure to stop myself there. This wasn't the time nor place to be drooling over lecherous thoughts like that. No doubt I had disgusted Gasper. However, much to my surprise, he was smiling joyfully. You're really kind, Issei. Gasper had me feeling sentimental. I had to be careful going forward. No one's ever said anything like that to me before. That they're jealous of me. And really explaining why. Issei, you're an interesting person. That was one way to put it. There were times where I felt bad for being such a pervert. Alright then, listen up, Gasper. I'm going to transfer the power of the Red Dragon Emperor to the Prez's breasts, I declared. Gasper looked up at me in surprise, but his eyes soon glistened with sympathy. You're amazing, Issei. The fact that you could even think about using such a powerful sacred gear in such an obscene way. I would never have thought of that. But I feel like I caught a glimpse of your wishes and dreams, Issei. You're fearless, telling people about those desires. It kind of felt like Gasper was making fun of me, but that was probably just my imagination. Right. It's a super powerful sacred gear. What matters is how you use it. I've been using mine to satisfy my lust. I even said as much to the dragon in my gauntlet. I'm going to suck on the Prez's breasts. And then I'll carry out my second goal, to transfer my power into her breasts. No, not just hers. Akeno's as well. Whoa, there are so many possibilities. Before I knew it, I had broken into a fervor without meaning to, and I was drooling all over the place. I had gone more than a little overboard. I feel a little bit more confident too. Just a little though. Good. Here, look at my right hand. I've already squeezed the Prez's breast with this, you know. Gasper stared at it in astonishment. I was pretty proud of myself on that count. The story had inspired Saji before, and now it was helping motivate Gasper. So he was a guy after all. Really? That's touching the breasts of your master, a high-class demon. Issei, you really are amazing. Just so you know, transferring my power into the Prez's breast was the Demon King's idea. I've been thinking of hanging around Loyster Zex more. He's incredible. You wouldn't believe the ideas he has. Transferring power into breasts, that's a way to use the Longinus' capabilities. The Demon King sounds incredible too. Before I knew it, Gasper had let me inside of his room, and we were chatting. Impressive, Issei. I would have never guessed that you two hit it off so quickly. By the time Kiba peeked in, Gasper and I were having a full-blown conversation. Had he been worried about us? I knew he was a good dude. Oh, this is perfect, I realized. Now that all the Occult Research Club male members were in one place, I could finally bring up an important topic. Kiba, there's something that we need to discuss. What is it, Issei? We're all guys here, all three of us. Indeed, but that's an odd thing to confirm all of a sudden. I thought we men in Rias Grummer's Familia should team up to coordinate our efforts. That's an intriguing thought. What do you have in mind? Yes, Kiba's willing to hear me out. Alright, time to reveal my master plan. First, I'll boost my power, then I'll transfer it to Gasper and get him to pause time. While everyone's stopped, I'll be free to touch the girls as much as I want. Entertaining dirty fantasies again, are you? Putting that aside, what do you need me for? Kiba was practically left speechless by my suggestion. Yeah, you're essential here. I need you to use your balance breaker to protect me. The enemy might attack while I'm playing around. We need to work as a team to do this. I boost my power, Gasper uses it, I fuel the girls up, and you protect me. It's a perfect formation. Issei, I'd do anything to help, but this... Let's have a serious discussion about the future for once. The way that you use your powers is too lecherous. You'll make Dre cry. Kiba understands. Came a sorrowful voice from my sacred gear. Don't you start complaining too, Dre. I'm your host, so if I want to fulfill my fantasies, I'll use you however I want. Kiba, don't you look at him like that. Don't you pity me, you damn pretty boy. Fine, you stay out of it then. I'm going to feast on the girls as much as I want. I haven't even had a single one of them yet. Knowing you, you'll probably get addicted. The president and the others are already indulging you, so I think it's better not to rock the boat. This must be what they mean when they say discoveries can be terrifying. Kiba's words had an important weight to them. Unfortunately, the profoundness went right over my head. Okay, fellow men, let's open up with one another. We should play a game. This is what I love about girls. I'll start. I love looking at their breasts and legs. Kiba and Gasper exchanged embarrassed grins, but they didn't look put off by the discussion topic. Still, I didn't miss the fact that Gasper was trembling the whole time. No doubt he was still worried about stopping time around us. His sacred gear could be activated inadvertently at any moment. For him, it was the source of endless anxiety. He was practically frightened to death of what he might do to us, that if he could stop us in time, we would hate him for it. But for now, all we needed to do was have a little bit of fun. No, I wanted to make sure that he did. Sorry, can I go back inside my box? I won't close the lid, but I feel more comfortable when I'm talking around people in there. Gasper admitted apologetically. I was disappointed, but I let him. We were still only starting out. I couldn't push him too hard. I had to coax him forward inch by inch. This is better. This cardboard box is like my own private oasis. As if. How can a cardboard box be that comfortable? Still, it did kind of suit him. He must have been used to going in and out of that thing. A cardboard box vampire. This whole situation was still a little too much for me. If you don't want to make eye contact with people, how about this? I asked, pulling out a paper bag and punching 2 holes in it before putting it over his head. A cross-dressing kid sitting in a dimly lit room with a paper bag over his head. There was a red glint shining out of the bag through his eye hole. How does it look? Does it suit me? Gasper edged across the room sluggishly, like a zombie. Whoa, he looked like a total degenerate. It was outright terrifying. But it's nice. Maybe it does suit me. Gasper, you're amazing. I really think so. Really? If I wear this, would it make me a better vampire too? He looked more like a pervert than a vampire, but that didn't matter. Maybe it was my lot in life to be surrounded by strange and unique individuals. The three of us spent all night engaged in dirty conversations. I had already suspected as much, but it turned out Kiba was quite a lecher as well. On the next day off, Akeno called me to meet her. She said that the press would be joining us later once she finished something important. I wondered what Akeno wants with me. My mind kept going to dirty places, but if Rias was going to join in, then there was little possibility of that. I was happy that the press and Akeno were so fond of me, but it sure made for a complicated situation. One spark, and they break into a massive fight over who would get to keep me as their dog or cat or whatever. As a pet, I was pleased. As a man, I was in limbo. I made my way to the outskirts of town as Akeno had asked. Hold on, isn't there only one place of note this way? Before long, the stone steps that I had been expecting came into sight, and at the end of those stairs was a red torii gate. Yeah, I had arrived at a Shinto shrine. Uh-oh, shrines were no place for demons. I hadn't tried setting foot into one myself yet, but I heard that, like other sacred grounds, they weren't exactly easy for creatures like me to enter, and I was pretty sure the press warned us not to go near places like this. There was a figure waiting at the foot of the stone steps. Squinting, I recognized a familiar face. Welcome, Issei. Akeno? She was standing there in a Shrine maiden outfit. I made my way up the steps. Sorry for calling you here so suddenly. Akeno apologized, walking along beside me. No, it's fine. I was only killing time. What do you need? The press is coming later though, right? Yeah. Rias had to go to the final meeting with Lord Zex before the conference. Her Shrine maiden outfit was really magnificent. It looked great on her. She truly was a classical Japanese beauty. Could this be where her nickname of the Vestal of Thunder came from? And was it really okay for a demon to stroll into a shrine? I had a lot of questions. The biggest mystery was why Akeno had asked to meet me way out here in the first place. Doesn't the Prez normally ask you to join her for meetings? She might need her queen after all. Greyfield will take care of her, so it should be fine. I have a more important task, to welcome the individual waiting for us here. She glanced up to the top of the stairs. Uh-huh. We're meeting someone? We approached the torii gate. Demons were supposed to receive considerable damage if we passed this point. We had always been warned not to enter sacred places. We'll be fine here. We've come to a special agreement that even demons can enter this area. Akeno explained before passing under the gate as if it was nothing. Bracing myself for the unexpected, I nervously inched through. Nothing happened. In front of me stood the shrine's main hall. It felt like a rather old and ancient building, but I couldn't spot any signs of damage or wear. Akeno, is this where you live? Yeah, it was left vacant when the last priest who operated it passed away, so Rias secured it for my use. Is that the Red Dragon Emperor? I spun around at the sound of a new voice. A pair of golden wings, brilliant to the point of being blinding. A young man with a handsome countenance was staring at me. He was dressed in luxurious white robes and had a golden ring hovering above his head. Hold on, a halo? He smiled my way gingerly and extended his hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Red Dragon Emperor Issei Hyodo. He knows my name? Just who is this guy? As if in response to my unasked questions, a further 10 golden wings unfolded from its back, for a total of 12. I'm Michael, the leader of the angels. I see. I recognize your aura, Drake. It's been a long time. This guy's a major big shot. With Akeno leading us, Michael, the Archangel, and I approached the shrine's main hall. Michael's halo was proof that he was an angel. According to the Prez, the identifying features of an angel were their halos and white feathers. Fallen angels, on the other hand, lacked those golden rings, and their wings were black. Michael's were golden. I could literally feel his aura and grandeur and majesty. The building's interior was unexpectedly large and surrounded by several huge pillars. I could feel my skin tingling at the presence of an unknown surge of power. What is this power? Something was giving off an energy that raised a red flag in my brain. I thought to give you this, actually, the Archangel said. Uh-huh. Give me something? I cast my gaze where Michael was pointing and laid eyes on a sword. It hovered in the air and emanated a holy aura. Uh-oh, I thought. The thing looked like a holy sword. As ignorant as I was, I recognized the foreboding feeling. I had felt it enough already from the Excaliburs and the Durandal. This is the dragon-slaying holy sword Ascalon, formerly belonging to Georgius, although you may perhaps know him better as Saint George. No, I don't know the first thing about George, whatever his name is, or this Saint George.
He's a famous dragon slayer. You should study him a bit more,
Drake explained. Shut up. A dragon slayer? Even the word alone sounded dangerous.
They are a group whose sole purpose is to destroy dragons. The term is also applied to the weapons they use.
So they were assassinated who specialized in dragons? That was terrifying. Did that make me a target too? Did everyone have to hate me? We performed a special rite to allow even a demon like you to draw the dragon's power and wield it. Or, rather, to allow you to assimilate it into your boosted gear, explained the Archangel. Is that even possible? I wondered, dubious.
That's up to you. Sacred gears respond to the thoughts of their owners. If your desire is there, it will probably work.
Right. Well, I still have my doubts. Why are you giving me this? I couldn't help but ask. Why would Michael give me such a precious artifact to someone like me? Not only was I a demon, an enemy to all angels, but I was also the vessel of a dragon who caused everyone such trouble during the Great War. From his perspective, I was pretty much the worst of the worst. Michael, however, responded with a smile. I see our upcoming conference as an opportunity for collaborations between the three great powers. I'm comfortable telling you this, as you already know, but our creator, the Lord, died in the last great war. Our opponents, the former demon kings, likewise perished. The fallen angels' leaders say nothing on the matter, but even Azazel has admitted that he doesn't want to be involved in another war. As such, this is a chance for us all. If we continue getting into spats with one another, our three factions will one day dwindle to extinction. Even if we escape that fate, a separate force may attack and overwhelm us if we don't learn to work together. As such, this holy sword is a personal gift to your demon faction. Of course, I have offered a similar show of goodwill to the fallen angels too. Your superiors returned our missing swords as well, for which we are particularly grateful. The Archangel was talking about some really complicated stuff here. So basically, he was saying this conference was important and he wanted to make peace with us demons and fallen angels. But what was that about a separate force? Who else was outside the three factions?
Oh, yeah. There are other mythological systems outside those of the Bible.
Huh? Drake, this is the first I've heard of that.
They don't normally cross over from their territory, but they entered into an explicit non-aggression pact with those three. But now, with the biblical God gone, there's no telling what they might do. That's part of the reason why none of the three factions will publicly admit his death.
I didn't have the faintest clue what he was talking about. My mind kept turning over one question after the next. I didn't even properly understand the power structures and relationships that govern demons, angels, and fallen angels yet. My question still unanswered, Michael continued. We've heard that the Welsh dragon who opposed us in the past has become a demon. As a greeting to you and your group, we present the sword as a gift. You will no doubt find yourself targeted by king-class dragons and your rival the Vanishing Dragon. So we thought that you, as the rumored weakest ever host to the Red Dragon Emperor, would benefit from an additional weapon. Wow, sorry about being such a disappointment. I'm doing my best. There was still so much that I didn't understand, but at least I recognized that Michael was offering the weapon in good faith. Are you sure you want to give it to me? Why? I pressed. Only once have the three great powers banded together to defeat the red and white dragons. After all, those two creatures intruded on the war and threw the whole battlefield into chaos. Drake told me that story once before. Anything to add, Drake?
Nope,
He replied. In the hope of joining forces with our former enemies once more, I am placing my hopes in you, the Red Dragon Emperor. That's a particularly Japanese way of thinking, wouldn't you say? Michael kinda sounded sarcastic, but if the Angels' leader could say that with a smile and a straight face, then I would believe that he was telling the truth. I turned towards the sword. Can I touch it? Holy swords were meant to be lethal against demons, right? The last thing I needed was for one of those dragon slayers to get their hands on one of them. Watching me hesitate, Akeno spoke up. We've performed some final adjustments to it here at the shrine. The Demon King, Azazel, and Michael have performed the necessary rites to allow even a demon to wield it, so long as they possess the power of a dragon. Seriously? If Akeno was the one that was saying it, then it had to be true. I cautiously reached out to the holy sword suspended in the air. Nothing. I could feel his holy aura, but no pain. No damage assailed my body. Was I seriously gonna be okay then?
Focus on your boosted gear, kid. I'll take care of the rest. Synchronize that blade with the energy of your sacred gear.
That was easy enough to say, but actually doing it. For the time being, I focused on activating my sacred gear and manifesting my red gauntlet. Then I concentrated on making the energy stored within me align with the holy sword. The weapon's holy aura flowed into my sacred gear, through it, and into my body. A feeling of trepidation washed over me, but the sense of danger soon morphed into familiarity as Drake's power rose to meet it. There was a red burst of light, and the next thing I knew, a long blade was protruding from my gauntlet, covering my left hand. They merged. Amazing. My sacred gear and the holy sword had combined. Now the holy weapon was part of my boosted gear. Having confirmed my success, Michael clapped his hands in congratulations. In that case, I best be going. Huh? He's leaving already? There was something I wanted to say if I ever met an angel. I want to talk to you about something. Come to the conference. You could tell me afterward. I assure you, I'll hear you out. Making those his final words, Michael's body erupted in light. When the flash died down, the archangel was gone. Some tea? Thank you. With Michael gone, I was left alone with Akeno in the shrine that she called home. We had gone to a Japanese-style room that looked to be laid out for holding tea ceremonies. If I remember correctly, I'm supposed to turn the bowl around 3 times before drinking, right? 1, 2, 3. Ah, that's bitter. Akeno watched my reaction with a light chuckle. Did you work with Michael, the archangel, on the sword here? I asked. Yeah. This is where we made modifications to the Ascalon. Arranging the conference between 3 great powers and organizing a ceremony to prepare a holy sword too. Akeno and the Prez sure had a lot on their plate lately. Was this the kind of work that kings and queens were always called on to do? I would have to try to keep out of the way and to keep Gasper occupied at least for a while. However, for the moment, Akeno and I were alone. I surmised it was a good time to inquire about something that had been bugging me. I braced myself to bring up the topic that had been troubling me ever since our battle with Kokobeel. Do you mind if I ask you something? Please, go ahead. Akeno, is your father... Her expression clouded over at the unfinished question. That's right. My father is Barkio, one of the leaders of the fallen angels, and my mother was a human. So it is true. Kokibyo said that Akeno possessed Barkio's abilities and powers. My mother was a daughter of a priest at a shrine here in Japan, Akeno explained while meeting my gaze. I was told that one day she came to aid my father, who had been badly wounded. That was how they met, and I was the result of the union. Akeno certainly had some complicated circumstances. She and Gasper were alike in that way, I guess. Suddenly, I was struck by the feeling that my own family was too ordinary. Despite being the one who broached the subject, I wasn't sure how to respond. I racked my brain trying to think of something to say when Akeno's wings shot out of her back. Unlike the usual pair of matching demon wings, only one of them was bat-like, while the other was one of a fallen angel. I possess demon and fallen angel wings alike. Akeno all but spat out the words in loathing as she grabbed onto the black fallen angel wing with one of her hands. I hate these feathers. So, when I met Rias, I chose to become a demon, but the creature I had become was something in the middle. Perhaps this suits one like me, whose blood is tainted with corruption. Akeno's every word dripped out with self-derision. It hurt to see her talk about herself in such a way. How do you feel now, Issei, to learn the truth? You hate fallen angels, don't you? They killed you once, and Azazel too, and then they tried to destroy your hometown. How can you not despise them? Given the gravity of the situation, I certainly wasn't about to lie. Yeah, I hate them. At this, Akeno's expression turned sorrowful. I like you though, Akeno. She said nothing but looked a little surprised. I won't ask anything else about your birth. I only want to know whether it was true. Actually, even inquiring about that was pretty rude of me, and I kind of regret having done it in the first place. I'm sorry, really. I can be a bit insensitive sometimes. Not at all. Can you truly forgive me for having the blood of a fallen angel running through my veins? I may be reborn as a demon, but I'm still part fallen angel. Maybe I got close to you because I wanted you to hate me. I'm despicable. That's got nothing to do with it. How should I put this? You're kind, Akeno. You're nice. I definitely don't like fallen angels, but you're different, okay? Even if your father is a fallen angel, you're Akeno, the Occult Research Club's vice president. And I never once thought poorly of you. I'm not going to despise you just because you got a little bit of fallen angel blood in you. I still like you just as much as I did before. There's nothing to worry about, right? Huh? Yeesh. What am I saying? Sorry. This is all coming out really clumsily. As I trailed off, I realized Akeno was crying. Uh-oh. Did I hurt her feelings? What am I supposed to do? I brought her to tears. As I floundered, Akeno broke into a smile and wiped her eyes. That's not fair, Issei. If you keep talking like that, I really will fall in love with you. Huh? I didn't get that last part, but she said something wasn't fair, right? Did I upset her? As she stood up, brought her face near mine, and embraced me. Akeno? I stammered, not knowing what to do. I've decided, she whispered into my ear. I've decided, Issei, do you like Rias? Huh? Yeah, of course I do. I thought so. She's serious too. So I guess becoming your lawful wife is out of the question. Azazel still has a good shot at that though. So first and second places are already taken. First place? Second place? Just what was she ranking? My confusion must have been readily apparent. Akeno edged closer still, her mouth approaching my ear. Hold on, Akeno. I won't be able to take it if you do something so stimulating. You know, Issei. What? I don't mind being number 3. My number 3? What does she mean? Does that have to do with the first and second place that she mentioned? I don't get it. Yeah, you're number 3. That might actually be rather good position. There's certainly danger to it. A bit like having an affair, wouldn't you say? Issei, you can play with me as much as you want. You can even rest your head on my thighs when the president isn't around. I didn't really follow everything, but I knew what a lap pillow was. Really? Seriously? Akeno's lap pillow? I was getting excited at the mere thought of it. There's no need to be formal with me, Issei. But you're my senior. It'll feel strange if we were too familiar. Just once would be enough. Whisper my name, just my name, with passion, please. Akeno's glistening eyes were all but begging me. I swallowed deeply, steadied my heart, and whispered, Akeno. I'm so happy, Issei. Her voice wasn't its usual dignified tone. For those 4 words, she was a normal high school girl. She hugged me again, tightly. Issei, please say my name like that whenever we're alone. Akeno cooed sweetly. This was no longer Akeno Himejima, the vice president of the Occult Research Club. In this moment, she was a regular teenage girl. The sudden change had made my brain do cartwheels. She really is cute. Hold on, I can feel her breasts pushing against me. Damn, they're soft. Seemingly effortlessly, Akeno guided me down to her legs, offering me a chance to rest my head on them. My 3rd lap pillow ever. I was overflowing with unspeakable emotion at this development. Akeno patted my head. It felt different compared to when the prez did it. I robbed the president of one of her privileges. We're up to no good, aren't we? How does it feel, Issei? Awesome. Her thighs were so soft. I could doze off to sleep here. Oh dear, this won't do. If the president were to see us like this... If the president were to see what, Issei? That voice. My body went cold. I lifted myself to my feet and craned my neck towards the source of the sound. There, surrounded by the most threatening crimson aura imaginable, like a guardian deity at the gate of a Buddhist temple, stood my master. I was done for. My gut had told me that she was going to murder me. I mean, no matter how you looked at her, she was clearly ready to wreak destruction. Prez, this isn't... Rias rested a hand on her forehead and let out a deep sigh. I can't let my guard down for even a moment. To think that you would accept a lap pillow from someone other than me. I could hear the anger in Rias' footsteps as she drew close. It felt like she was pulling my cheek as hard as she possibly could. Then, in a low, menacing tone, the prez asked, The sword? I've got it. And Michael. He left. Then we're finished here. We're going home, now. The prez spun her heels, turning to leave. I wasted no time following suit, bowing my head in apology to Akeno. I was genuinely sorry. I wish I were the number 1 candidate, Rias. You don't know how jealous I am. I thought I heard Akeno whispering something behind me. She had returned to her usual manner of speaking. I hadn't been able to make out the words correctly, but the prez stopped for a split second, yanking my arm towards her as if to pull me away as quickly as possible. The prez marched down the steps leading into the shrine grounds, seething with rage. I said nothing as I followed meekly behind her, trying only to make sure that she didn't leave me behind. She absolutely hated it when other women touched her servants. From what I could tell, she would tolerate Azazel and Konako doing so, but anyone else, Akeno included, was out of the question. Or maybe she couldn't stand Akeno touching her servants because she was her closest confidant. I couldn't put my finger on exactly what she was thinking. Regardless, it was clear from her point of view, what I had just done may have been tantamount to betrayal. What should I do? I had to apologize, but how? I had no idea. If the prez ended up hating me, I would die of shame. I racked my brain, trying to come up with a solution, when she took a sudden stop. You know, Issei, the prez began, without turning around. What was she about to ask? I was terrified. How should I respond? I couldn't think of a proper response. Yeah? I asked nervously, but I couldn't have expected what she was about to say next. Akeno, well, Akeno, you see, yeah? Akeno is the club's vice president, but she's still Akeno. And me. Huh? What does she mean? Of course I thought of Akeno as Akeno, but what did that have to do with anything? You're the prez, right? Is it just my imagination? Or did her shoulders slump when I said the word prez? That's right. I'm the club president, but I'm also Rias. What's going on? Her tone is incredibly bleak. Did I say something wrong? I clearly hadn't given the prez the answer that she was hoping for. As such, in as normal of a voice I could muster, I stated, yeah, you're the prez. My master, the high-class demon Rias Grummery. And, prez? At this, she turned around to face me, her expression despondent. What was all that about your number one candidate? Am I the only one that can't get close to you? She questioned. The prez's voice wasn't filled with her usual elegant and graceful intonations, but sounded more like a regular girl. The kind that you might have found in any city or town. Azazel, do I really gotta go to the Leaders' Summit tomorrow? Of course you do, Volley. You're the White Dragon Emperor. Hey, Azazel. Will there really be no other wars after this? You're always looking to fight. You're a classic case of someone whose soul is possessed by a dragon, aren't you? You won't live long like that. That's fine. I'm not interested in a long life. I just wish that I hadn't been born in such a dreary era. A world without God. I wanted to defeat him myself. As expected from the White Dragon Emperor. What will you do then, once you defeated all the strong opponents out there? I'll die. I don't want to live long in such a boring world.